Hey YouTube, what's up? I want to talk about self-hating, shady, light-skinned, mixed biracial women. All right. And this doesn't get called out a lot because, the community doesn't really mind light-skinned people, especially the women, liking or preferring brown-skinned, dark-skinned people, especially the men. Well, some people can argue that, there is some pushback on that, but long story short, light-skinned people preferring dark-skinned people is a-okay. All right. So this doesn't get called out. All right. But I'm gonna call this out right here. All right. This is gonna be a call out video. All right. I'm calling out the light skinned women who practice self-hate and are shady. Let me explain. All right. Many times these women, for some reason, it tends to be the women, the light skinned mixed biracial women, more so than the men. Thankfully. Um, but they tend to say things, that are questionable, right? Like, because if this came, saying things that if it came from like a darker skinned person, we would be all over that. Let me go in. Let me explain. All right. For instance, some light skinned, women will say like, "Oh, I wish I was dark skinned," and it's like, where did that come from? They say like, "Oh, I wish I was dark. I wish I had darker skin." You know, versus just you know having a like and an admiration and a just an interest infatuation with dark skin. Just instead of just saying, "Oh, I just think it's a really nice skin tone," they're like, "Oh, I want that skin tone." You know, And if like a darker skinned person said this about a lighter skinned person, that would be considered self-hate, would it not? People would be questioning that, like, why do you want someone else's skin tone? Why not be happy with the skin tone that God blessed you with? You know. Another thing, you know, these self-hating and are shady light-skinned biracial mixed women tend to prefer men that are not reflective of them. You know, that's interesting. But then again, if you're wishing that you were darker skinned, then I guess it would make more sense. I wouldn't expect you to have, love for your reflection if you don't even like your own reflection. Your if you don't like your own actual reflection in the mirror, then I would doubt that you would like your, male counterpart reflection. Let's be honest, right? So again, like self-hate is running deep here. All right. Then these women, these self-hating, shady women, and are shady, they say like, "Oh, I want dark-skinned children. I want a dark-skinned baby." And it's like, well, you're not dark-skinned. Why would you want a kid that doesn't reflect you as far as the way that you look? People, the black community tends to place a lot of emphasis on skin tone for some reason. And I guess we all know where that all comes from with the history of slavery and oppression and things like that. So I don't think it comes from a place of just nothing. Like, oh, it's just like that just because, right? But yeah, these women saying that they want dark-skinned children, and I just find that a little odd that you would want a child that is dark-skinned, considering that you're light-skinned. If this was a dark-skinned person saying, "Oh, I want light-skinned children," wouldn't we call that self-hate? Wouldn't we be questioning that? Wouldn't we be going in on them saying, what's wrong with you? Black is beautiful. And then then the other argument would be like, well, light skinned people are black too. You know? And me personally, I do make the argument that just because your child doesn't have the same skin tone as you doesn't mean that they don't reflect you. I will say that. I'll put that out there. That doesn't mean that your child doesn't reflect you and look like you just because of the skin tone, right? Because honestly, the face, that really puts it into perspective. It really makes it like, oh, okay, this child looks like me. Because if your child had the same skin tone but had a different facial structure, you're like, oh. But the thing is, because the community is so color struck, it's all about skin tone, right? And I'll stay with me and like my father, right? I like as far as like skin tone is concerned, I I don't look like my dad. I have a darker skin tone than my father. Like my skin tone is significantly darker than my father's. Like you put us side by side and you can tell the difference. All right. But if you look at our faces, right, it really syncs up. It's like you can't deny it. So I will say that a child doesn't necessarily have to have your same skin tone to look like you. I put that out there as a defense. But I do find it a bit odd that you're announcing this type of stuff. Like, oh, I want to be dark skinned. Oh, I love dark skinned men. Man. Like, and what else you saying? You want a dark skinned baby. I find it really odd that you're announcing all that. You're making, again, it's almost like a performance, honestly, and to an extent. In some cases, I feel like in some cases it is a performance, trying to be considered and looked at as being more pro-black, and down, right? In other cases, it could come from a place of like self-hate or self-loathing. Again, if brown skin, dark skin people were doing this, that's what we will be calling it. But I guess it's different when a light skinned person is engaging in this type of stuff. I personally think that the light skinned women who are engaging in this, they have low self esteem, you know, and a little weak minded. Let's be honest, a little weak minded, really just desperate to fit in some cases, and kind of like wannabes to an extent. That Spike Lee movie, School Days, when the light skinned girls were called wannabes. I think this is at play. These light skinned women who talking like this and doing all this stuff, I think they low key want to be dark skinned women, or at least they want to be in the position that dark skinned women are in. Some of them want to be in the position that dark skinned women are in, but they want to make sure to hold on to their skin tone because they know that that gives them the edge. You know, and I don't think that that's called out nearly enough, about light skinned biracial mixed women wanting to essentially almost like usurp dark skinned women's position. That's not, never, hardly ever called out. It's always glossed over, right? You know? And I think this is sort of like one of the characteristics or traits of people with low self esteem, people who are self hating, wanting to kind of like take someone else's position versus being in your own position, and being satisfied with the position that you are supposed to be in versus trying to get someone else's position, right? Take someone else's place. But on the flip side of all this, I think that some light-skinned biracial mixed women are really good at running game on dark-skinned black people, both male and female. So they'll say all this stuff. So, they'll do all this stuff so that, okay, I wish I was dark skinned, so that'll please the that'll shut up the dark skinned women. All right. Then wanting a dark skinned man, feeling the need to get on a mountaintop and scream it out, shout it out for some reason, right? So they can seem like they down because a lot of these dark skinned dudes got self-esteem issues, got self-hate issues themselves, so they are going to be you know eating that up with some biscuits, sopping that up with some biscuits. You know, her saying she want a dark skinned baby. She's again really distancing herself from her own phenotype. Isn't that a little strange? You know, you know, like is this preference or pathology? But yeah, this type of stuff is never called out. Light skinned and biracial mixed women are never called out or called, jealous or insecure type of stuff like they do when the dark skinned women call out the light skinned women. Like if dark skinned women were trying to do this to lighter skinned women, they would be called out and dragged all across the community for trying to do this. But since it's the lighter skinned women doing it, like, oh, that's just, she trying, she just love blackness, ain't nothing wrong with love and blackness. Thankfully, I can say that, light-skinned men don't really seem to be engaging in this type of behavior nearly as much. While light-skinned biracial mixed men may do prefer, darker skinned women, you know, but they don't feel the need to knock the whole phenotype, right? Because you can kind of do this stuff, but still not necessarily come off like self-hating. Well, at least some of this stuff. You know, I personally don't think that the looks of your kids should matter if you're not with someone who doesn't look like you. But a lot of people don't view it that way. Some people still view it as the looks still matter, and they're trying to get the look of their partner, not them, right? And I think when it comes to the light skinned mixed dudes, I think that when it comes to the kids, I'm not sure if the skin tone really matters that much to them. I'm not quite sure, but if it does, they act accordingly, right? You know, but to be fair, maybe it's not a completely fair comparison to compare light-skinned mixed biracial men to light-skinned mixed biracial females. Maybe it's not completely fair to make that comparison because there are differences in between males and females when it comes to like our you know experiences within society just as a whole, not necessarily the community, black community, but just society as a whole, so perhaps those comparisons may not be fair, so perhaps I'll retract some of those. I'll say I'll backtrack on some of those, but I'll say the spirit of it is still the same, and I think it still needs to be sort of looked at, though. You know, so that's my video. Thanks for watching, you guys. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now. And definitely leave me comments. I want to know what you guys think about this. Thanks.